Welcome to episode 6 of the To Climb the Mountain podcast, an indie author's journey. Today's episode is titled Copy Editing. And by the way, it's pretty damn hot in here and I'm sweating, so hopefully you won't see that in the video. Now, I had planned on releasing a video sooner than this. It's been about 3 weeks since my last video, but it's been a busy time of year for me as it's been Christmas time, although I suppose it's been busy for everyone, and it was my son's second Christmas, so we had to make it extra special for him. Plus also the last couple of weeks I've been in a fair bit of pain. My left shoulder is sore and I actually have long-term back problems and suffer from chronic pain and fatigue anyway, but I'm having to lean right over to try to look straight for this video. If I let myself normally sit how I would normally sit with a bad back and sore shoulder, it'd look something like this, so I'm definitely leaning over to the side a lot. So I try to keep straight for better posture, and then obviously I get up a lot and exercise. So I'm pretty fit and healthy considering I have health problems, probably fitter and healthier than some people without health problems. But yes, it's made writing difficult, plus I've been busy writing a lit RPG book. Anyway, today's topic, copy editing. What does a copy editor do? Well, other than checking spelling and grammar, punctuation, that sort of stuff, they also check for word repetition. Do all your sentences start with John did this, John did that? Do all paragraphs start with the same words? They'll also go into flow and pacing. Does the sentence flow right? They might change words so it does. They won't do massive structural changes to your book, but they'll just make the word-to-word, paragraph-to-paragraph level flow better and sound better. They might point out if dialogue doesn't sound like the original character, and they might make slight adjustments to it to make it sound like the character. Though if it's something that consistently happens, then they probably point this out and say you need to work on it. They also check for problems with consistency, as well as like if you said your character has broken their left arm in chapter 2, but in chapter 10 you say they broke their right arm, they'll point this sort of stuff out. They'll probably do basic level fact checking. Though I wouldn't expect too in-depth, like if you're writing a hard science fiction book, don't expect them to look into E=mc² or whatever. So basically they check pacing, flow, and does your book sound good to read, nice to read, as well as fixing any mistakes you've made. Now it differs from proofreading. A proofreading just looks at the mechanical aspects of your book. Are the commas in the right place, the semicolons, although you should try not to use them? Is all the speech got speech bubbles around it? Are all the words spelled correctly? That type of stuff. So that should be the final stage of a manuscript before launch. Now I'm about to go into an in-depth overview of copy editing of my prologue chapter for Heir to a Lost Son. And then I'm going to look at a paragraph level and sentence level to show you how Alison Wright, my editor, changed things and made it better. Now scrolling in the background is my prologue of Heir to a Lost Son, which I had copy edited about 1.5 years ago. Now mind you, first up, I've been told by a couple of different editors that I write pretty cleanly. So maybe this might not be reflective if you get a copy editing done by an editor of what you get back. I've put a lot of time and effort into trying to improve my writing, and even when I'd written this, I had spent hours reading different books on the craft of writing and learning grammar and punctuation. So it's possible you'll either get a cleaner manuscript back than me, or you'll get one that has a lot more red than me. Now as I go through this, you can see that the editor has changed words, sometimes whole sentences, to make them sound better, and you can also see where she's fixed the grammar, usually commas. After this is scrolled through, I'm going to show you 3 different paragraphs. One was how I originally wrote the paragraph in my 3rd draft. I think I did 3 drafts of Heir to a Lost Son, can't remember now. The second one is what she changed in that paragraph. The red will still be there. And the third is the final paragraph after she'd copy edited it. And that is what went to the final book. Now I'm not going to show you the entire prologue chapter. I'm guessing you've got the gist of what a copy edit does now and how it can make your book better. Now I'm going to take you to the 3 paragraphs and how they changed from how I originally wrote it to how the editor did it. Now here are the 3 paragraphs. The original at the top, I'll just quickly read it out. She walked through 2 limestone chambers filled with sharp stalagmites and passed half a dozen side tunnels before she found the one she sought. The tunnel was devoid of torchlight and slick with moisture, but she was more sure-footed than the first time she'd followed the directions of the voice in her head down it. Since then, she'd walked it dozens of times and didn't miss a step. Now, the copy-edited one changed a fair few words in this paragraph and just made it flow better. The paragraph I just read was easy to read out loud, but there was probably a couple of points that needed work that were slightly difficult to read out quickly, so the final paragraph should flow better. Now I'm going to read the final one out. She walked through 2 limestone chambers filled with sharp stalagmites and passed half a dozen side tunnels before finding the one she sought. The tunnel was devoid of torchlight and slick with moisture, but she was more sure-footed than the first time she'd come there, following the directions of the voice in her head. Since then, she'd walked the tunnel dozens of times. Today, she didn't miss a single step. So the final version flowed better than the original, and obviously the grammar and everything was fixed, but I'm going to show you one paragraph that I think was much better to read out in the final version than the version I wrote, and it ends on a better word. The tunnel was devoid of torchlight and slick with moisture, but she was more sure-footed than the first time she'd followed the directions of the voice in her head down it. That was how I originally wrote it, and it ended on the word it. The tunnel was devoid of torchlight and slick with moisture, but she was more sure-footed than the first time she'd come there, following the directions of the voice in her head. That was the final version, and I think it sounds better. Yes, the changes were minor, and into the greater context of the story, pretty insignificant, but as these are the opening chapters, the prologue is the very opening chapter of the book, I wanted it to sound as best as it could. Obviously in the entire chapter and in the entire book there was plenty of little tiny examples like this of where things were changed. But as an author you should definitely focus on the beginning chapters of your book, because that's what's going to hook readers into your story. Obviously the entire book is important and no point should be boring and they give up, but the opening chapters are key. And if you look at it from more of a business standpoint, then the first 10% is what Amazon shows as a sample. So you definitely want your beginning 10%, the best writing you could possibly put out there. So there you have it, copy editing. It's definitely something valuable to have, especially if it's your first book. If you're good at writing, you can write cleanly and you've done a lot of research into making your writing better. Maybe you could skip it in later book projects just to cut down costs on your books before launch. But I'd definitely recommend at least getting a proofread. Anyway, I hope this video has helped. Like and subscribe it. I should have probably done that for my first video, as it's something YouTubers do at the end. Like and subscribe and comment. And take care.